All right. Time of the Gentiles, Fulfillment of Prophecy, Part 3. Part 3. Hey, family, it's been an adventure. It's been an adventure. All right. So if you haven't already, please check out part one, part two. I haven't got I started the part three, but I didn't do it because I realized when I was just recapping the wars that it ended up taking a good half hour. So I didn't want it to cut into, because I try to keep these things under 2 hours if possible. So definitely check that one out as well. I want to first say thank you to everybody who have subscribed, who have liked the video. I'm glad that you know it. You had an opportunity to learn something. You probably already know it. Some of you probably already know a lot of this stuff and just feel good that somebody's putting it out there. Some of you may even have this book and already read it. But appreciate the support. Just keep this in mind, family. When you like the video, when you subscribe, how YouTube works is it puts it in higher algorithms. Meaning, so if you like the video or you subscribe, do both or whatever. If enough people do it, more audience will see it. More audience see it, more people have an opportunity to learn things out of the Bible, because that's all it's going to put on here. We just educating about the Bible, about who we are and what the world is going through, and that's all it's about, family. It's no foolishness on here. It's just straight up bringing the truth of the world, the truth of the Most High, I should say, to the world. You know what I'm saying? And exposing the wickedness in the world. You know what I'm saying? So definitely appreciate it. And you too are participating just by liking, and because your like may lead to somebody else being able to see it. So you are putting forth that work as well. You can look at it like that. You know what I mean? So definitely appreciate the support to the channel. But family, without further ado, we're gonna get into this. I'm ain't gonna do too much of a recap or anything. We're just gonna get into it because, like I said, I did the recap of the 5 wars, and we've seen the 5 wars that they were involved in, 5 wars that they started and stirred up and reap the benefits of. So let's get going. All right, family. So we're gonna start off in the year 1903. Now, remember the Jays, the Khazars, right? They don't have a homeland right now, not in the year 1903. And so this is starting off talking about that. All right, so in the year 1903, in August, at the 6th World Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland, a discussion takes place regarding an offer from Britain to provide Uganda as a base for a future Jewish Zionist state. Let's pause real fast. Let's touch on something, because if you remember in the previous part, and even in the recap with the wars, the Jays are already got their eyes fixated on South Africa because of the gold and the diamonds, all the precious metals. It was a overwhelming of wealth there. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we see that they started the British soldiers, they started a concentration camp. They started putting the sympathizers for any of the Boer farmers, started throwing them in concentration camps. So you can imagine people without their homes, people are put in places where they're left to die, if not let go. I don't know what the overall outcome for everybody on that. We just got what we read in this book. But what I will say is they're already fixated on Africa. So here we're reading in 1903 that Britain provided the Jays with Uganda, and because the British knows the Jays don't have a homeland, so they was like, look at all this land, and you need to imagine how beautiful Africa is. So they're like, look, all this land, you can make it here, right? Now we're gonna see how the Jays respond to that. But what I will say is this: can you imagine if the Jays was to take that land instead of the land of Palestine? Yeah, that would have been something. That definitely would have been something. So the Jays responds, right? so so the Jays, it says the Jays present complained they wanted Palestine, and then suddenly Max Nordeo makes the following shocking statements regarding how the Jays will get Palestine through a stepping stone process, which would play out to the letter. See what I'm saying? When they plan stuff, it comes to. It might, like I said, it might not happen right away, but it ended up happening. So he says it plays through the letter 15 years later. This is what he said. So this is his statement. He says, "Let me tell you the following words as if I were showing you the rungs of a ladder leading upward and upward. Herzl, the World Zionist Congress, the English Uganda Proposition, the Future World War, the Peace Conference, where, with the help of England, a free Palestine will be created." Now, see, he's saying that it's going to happen in that order, right? And they're saying that it happened to the letter. Now, what's interesting is the word war, and not just war, but world war. So he's saying, all right, I'm going to show you in stepping stones how the Jays are going to get Palestine. He says, right? He says, a future world war. So let's go back to Albert Pike. Because remember, we read that Albert Pike gave the blueprint to the 3 world wars. Now, when Albert Pike gave the blueprint, World War I nor World War II hadn't even taken place yet. Yet alone, World War III hasn't even taken place by now. All right, so we know when we read Albert Pike's plan, or I don't know, I dare to say prophecy, but pretty much they just know, they know what they're going to do. They know what their family's going to do and how things are going to play out. And they're in such a position of power to see to it that it happens just like that. So let's read what he had for the Second World War. He says, the Second World War is to be used to foment the controversy between fascism and political Zionism, with the oppression of the Jays. Stop right there. With the oppression of the Jays. How does he, he's a J too, so how does he know his own people are going to be oppressed? You follow me? He's predicting that his people are going to be oppressed. Before we finish reading this little paragraph, check this out. I wonder if y'all remember this. The pogroms. The pogroms that was mentioned in 1880, where it says, I'll read it real fast. Rothschild's agents began fomenting a series of pogroms, predominantly in Russia, but also in Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania. These pogroms result in the slaughter of thousands of Jays. Stop. See? So you got Albert Pike saying that the Jays would be they would be what was the word he used? But basically they would face persecution, so to speak. That's what, I don't got it right in front of me, but he basically saying they'll be persecuted. We're gonna get back to Mr. Albert Pike, but you see, because Albert Pike said this in the year 1871, but in 1880, 9 years later, right, we see the Rothschild agents start doing something where they made it uncomfortable for the Jays, to the point they even got slaughtered. It said thousands of them got slaughtered. All in order to make them relocate to major cities in the U.S. Right? let me finish reading it. So it says that these problems result in the slaughter of thousands of jays, causing approximately 2 million to flee. So that's 2 million jays, mainly to New York, but also to Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, and Los Angeles. However, some are assisted with Rothschild's money to begin settling in Palestine. You see this? So it's to get them out of their area that they're in, relocate them because they want them in America, right? But they also want some of them to start going to Palestine because they already see that as home. So let's get back up to Mr. Pike for the Second World War. He says that the Second World War is to be used to foment the controversy between fascism and political Zionism with the oppression of the Jays in Germany, right? A linchpin in bringing hatred against the German people. This is designed to destroy fascism. We ain't gonna get into all that. We already read all that. But to see what I'm showing you is this guy, when he says, here is the step-by-step plan, right? To get Palestine, right? And he goes, what he say? Let me read it one more time. He says, let me tell you the following words as if I were showing you the rungs of a ladder leading upward and upward, right? Because what's a ladder? A ladder is you step on, right? The rungs you step on. So he's saying step by step, this is going to happen, right? Herzl, the World Zionist Congress, the English Uganda Proposition, the Future World War, there we go. The Peace Conference, where, with the help of England, a free Jewish Palestine will be created. So this world war, he didn't say which world war it was here, but we see Albert Pike said it's the Second World War. So the Second World War, according to them, is going to lead to the Jays finding Palestine as their home. And anybody who knows history, we know that has taken place. Interesting, right? So let's go to the year 1905 because we see that World War II, right? World War II is going to happen and the Jays are going to get Palestine because there's going to be such hatred against Germany. So in the year 1905, though, a group of Rothschilds-backed Zionists led Jays, a group of Rothschild-backed Zionist Jays led by Georgia Apollonovich Gapin attempt to overthrow the Tsar of Russia. Remember, they always want to get the Tsar of Russia because the Tsar of Russia stopped their one world government back in the day. So that promise to kill him and his family still exists. It's going to happen, but it ain't happened yet. So you have a group of Rothschilds-backed Zionist Jays, right, make an attempt to overthrow the Tsar of Russia in a communist co-op. They fail and are forced to flee Russia only to be given refuge in Germany. Oh, they found refuge in Germany. I'm sure the Germans welcomed them. Interesting, right? But later on, the Germans are going to be their enemy. Ain't that something? So, and continuing on, it says, in this same year, the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 2, page 497, on the subject of control of the Catholic Church states, it is a somewhat curious sequel to the attempt to set up the Catholic competitor to the Rothschilds that at the present time, the latter are the guardians of the papal treasure. So basically, listen, the Rothschilds control the Catholic Church. The Rothschilds control the Catholic Church. The Rothschilds control the Pope. All right? Just keep that in mind. They running everything. It's not something they don't run. They're running everything. All right, so let's get down to the year 1907. Now, this is this guy I told you to watch. You got to watch him. So, Jacob Schiff. Rothschild's Jacob Schiff in 1907, the head of Kohn, Leob, and Co., In a speech to New York Chamber of Commerce warns that, this is his warning, check out his warning. This guy, Jacob Schiff, you gotta watch him. All right. His warning is, unless we have a central bank with adequate control of credit resources, this country is going to undergo the most severe and far-reaching money panic in its history. Wow, that was a very bold statement. That was a very bold statement. He's threatening them. He's saying, listen, y'all need to get this central bank there. So he's concerned about the central bank. And at this time, there is no central bank. Keep in mind, 2 central banks had existed and were kicked out of the country. So the third, which is going to be the Federal Reserve, have not came yet. Now, let's continue reading. Suddenly, America finds itself in the middle of another financial crisis, known as the Panic of 1907, which goes on to decimate the lives of millions of Americans. Now, ain't that something? Ain't that something? So in the same year, he said that this is going to happen. It happened. Right? It happened. Almost as if he was part of the plan, which he was. You see what I'm saying? It happened. The Panic of 1907. This is the Federal Reserve History.org. So it's an official website. It's talking about the Panic of 1907, right? Let's check it out. Let's just read just a little bit of it. All them people in the streets, though. They said it decimated many lives. Wow. All right. So it says the Panic of 1907 was the first worldwide financial crisis of the 12th century. It transformed a recession into a contraction surpassed in severity only by the Great Depression. The panic impacts is still felt today because it spurred the monetary reform movement that led to the establishment of the Federal Reserve System. Wow. Wow. So it was all to get the Federal Reserve Bank there, which is a centralized bank, which is nothing federal about it. It's a private organization. It's a private company, a private bank, taking on the word Federal Reserve to give you the implications that it's federal. Wow. Okay, so let's go to the year 1909. So Jacob Schiff again. It's the same man who he gave threats to America that they were going to go under a great financial depression, so to speak, right? So in 1909, Jacob Schiff, what did he do? He founds the National Advancement for Association of Colored People, i.e. the NAACP. Stop right there. The NAACP was founded by this man who has ties to these people who've been doing some very, very bad stuff to the world. I mean, the NAACP is our friends, right? They're the ones who go out and help us out, right? I mean, look at the name. National, the nation, advancement, right? So the nation's going to, on a national level, advancing colored people. Sound like it's for us, right? Let's keep reading. It says that this is done to incite black people into rioting. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. Ain't that something? Let's keep reading. So this is done to incite black people into rioting, looting, and other forms of disorder in order to cause a rift between black and white communities. Wow. Wow. Now, this is crazy, family. This is crazy. Let me show you something. All right. So Mr. Schiff, this is the year 1865. Check this out. We read this in part 2. Just in case you forgot it. So the year 1865, that's the year. I know you don't see it on the screen, but there's so much happened in the year 1865. But in the year 1865, check it out. Following a brief training period in the Rothschilds' London Bank, Jacob Schiff, right, same person, a Rothschild born in their house in Frankfurt, so he's kin, arrives in America at the age of 18. Remember, he got there at the age of 18. Look what his instructions was. With instructions and the finance necessary to buy into the banking house there. The purpose of this was to, let's read down. The purpose of this was to carry out the following tasks. Listen to his task. Check this out. Gain control of America's money system through establishment of a central bank. Okay. 2, find desirable men who, for a price, are willing to serve as stooges for the Illuminati and promote them into high places in the federal government and Congress and Supreme Court and all federal agencies. Okay. No surprise there, right? 3, check out 3. Check out 3. Create minority group strife. What? Create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly targeting the whites and the blacks. So this is the man who founded the NAACP, and one of his goals, one of his duties is to create strife between blacks and whites. I mean, come on, man. You might as well show this man's face. Jacob Schiff, German-American banker. Yeah. This is the man who started the NAACP. Well, he said he's one of the founders. But we see what his mission was. Wow. So it's literally no surprise here when you hear that it was created with the intent to incite black people into rioting, looting, and other forms of disorder in order to cause a rift between the black and white communities. Let's keep reading this, though. Let's keep reading this. All right. I'm telling you, this stuff is mind-blowing, family. It's very mind-blowing. So, Jewish historian Howard Sachar states the following in his book, The History of the Jays in America. In 1914, Professor Emeritus Joel Spingarn of Columbia University became chairman of the NAACP and recruited for its board such Jays leaders as Jacob Schiff, Jacob Billencup, and Rabbi Stephen Wise. So in 1914, well, that's when his book came out, right? But he's saying that the chairmen were basically all Jays. Okay. Including part of being the chairman was Mr. Schiff himself. Let's keep reading. I'm telling you, it gets interesting. Other Ashkenazi Jay co-founder includes Julius Rosenthal, Lillian Wald, and Rabbi Emil J. Hersich. It would not be until over 60 years later, in the 1970s, that the NAACP would appoint its first black president, Benjamin Hooks. This is Benjamin Hooks. Wow. So it took that long for them to even put a brother in there. Got quite a resume as far as like board of directors of Martin Luther King's board of directors, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He's did a lot, but yeah. The point is, you got the NAACP waiting 60 years to put, because if it's for the colored people, you wait 60 years to put a so-called colored person up there. Wow. All right. Let's keep reading, though. Interestingly, the J. Talmud is a proponent of the racist Hamitic myth, a subject on which former employee of Simeon Wiesenthal Center, Harold Brackman, wrote the following in his doctoral dissertation entitled The EBB, The Flow of Conflict, The History of Black J Relations through the 1900s. Foolishness he got here. Let's see. He says, there is no denying that the Babylonian Talmud was the first source to read a Negro phobic, and that's what that says. So he says a Negro phobic content into the episode by stressing Canaan's fraternal connection with Cush. All right, so now look, they violating, they trying to go in the Bible and they trying to twist things up. So we're gonna correct that. But look, let me just read what they got. Let me start it back over. Keep it in context. All right. It says there is no denying that the Babylonian Talmud was the first source to read a Negro-phobic content into the episode by stressing Canaan's fraternal connection with Cush. The more important version of the myth, however, ingeniously ties in its origin of blackness and of other real and imagined Negro traits with Noah's curse itself. According to it, Ham is told by his outraged father that because you have abused me in the darkness of night, your children shall be born black and ugly. Wow. Because you have twisted your head to cause me embarrassment, they shall have kinky hair and red eyes. Wow. Because your lips jested at my exposure, theirs shall swell. And because you have neglected my nakedness, they shall go naked with their shameful, elongated male members exposed for all to see. All right, listen. Y'all know we gotta get into the word because they taking a twist. Now, before I get into the word, real fast. They can say this and it'd be okay. Right? But you say anything about them, you blackballed. You can have charges brought up on you. You can have so much things happen to you. Now, these is lies. I'm gonna show you. So let me write this down. So they're saying the curse of Noah's curse, right? Okay. Watch this. Okay. Now, first and foremost, they could not come out of the Bible with their shenanigans. They had to go to a book that has nothing to do with the Bible, right? It's trash, right? But anyway, let's stick to the Bible. Let's stick to the facts, right? So let's read what happened, right? So we know that Noah's Ark and all that. Noah got off the ark. All of mankind and crazy created creatures, let's say that for the sake of time. We'll get into that on another lesson. Was destroyed from the earth. All right. So Noah and his sons are only on the earth. So Genesis chapter 9, right? Genesis chapter 9. We're going to start at verse. We'll start at verse 19. It says, these are the sons of Noah, and of them the whole earth was overspread. Okay, so now it's through these sons is where all the earth is going to get repopulated. Verse 20. And Noah began to be a husband, and he planted a vineyard. All right. Verse 21. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. Okay. All right. Verse 22. And Ham, the father of Canaan, right? Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. Okay. Verse 23, and Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon the both of their shoulders and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, which means they didn't see, and they saw not their father's nakedness. Okay. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. All right. And he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants. Right? A servant of servants shall he be unto his brothers. Now, he didn't say cursed be Ham. He said cursed be Canaan. Ham is the grandson. Canaan is the grandson of Ham. All right? So he said, cursed be Canaan. Remember, Ham is the one who went to his brothers. But Canaan is the one who receives the curse. This is just open for a good conversation. Me and my brothers have a good conversation about this. But, just for the sake of time, I'm just going to keep it basics. So, cursed be Canaan. All right? And he says, blessed be the almighty Yah of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Right? And Yah shall enlarge or entice. That word there should be entice, right? Which means trick, right? Deceive. Matter of fact, I'll show you. Journey with me. All right, so blueletterbible.org. Nice little research tool. Anyway, so Yah shall enlarge Japheth. Right? Let's go over to tools. This is your concordance. Scroll down. You see the word shall enlarge, right? Let's see what the meaning is. Scroll down. Entice, right? It means to entice, deceive, persuade, flatter, allure, enlarge, silly one, silly. Y'all get me? Let's go back to the reading. Okay. So when we read it, this is what it say. Yah shall enlarge or entice or deceive Japheth. And so Japheth is getting deceived here, right? And he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Stop right there. You have been deceived and you dwell in the tents of Shem. Now back in Noah's day, tents meant your home. Right? Noah speaking prophecy. Now, who is Japheth? Because being though they won't play these games, who is Japheth? Who is Japheth? But before we get into who's Japheth, we don't see nowhere in this where, because what they say, how did they word it? Let's go back to what they said. They said that, where is it at? Okay. It says, according to it, Ham is told by his outraged father that because you have abused me, your children. So all Ham's children is under this curse, according to them. But according to the actual Bible, it's only Canaan. Now, I'll save my understanding of what took place in this tent for another lesson, because I don't want to get all over the place. But the bottom line is they are lying. Canaan received the curse. It didn't say anything about Canaan being blackened and stuff like that, twisted hair and kinky hair, thick lips. You know what I mean? I don't say nothing about that. Now, I want to show you something. Before we get into Japhet. Remember the dwell on the tents of Shem, right? Keep that in mind. I want to show you something real fast. Ham's, the name Ham, meaning in Hebrew. Since the 17th century, a number of suggestions have been made that relates to the name Ham to a Hebrew word for burnt, black, or hot. Right? Ham means pretty much dark skin. Pretty much. That's what I was always told. And let me see. Let's do a little search because they saying that. Well, I got you here. Let's do a little search. All right. You see this? The name derives from the Hebrew ham, meaning hot or burnt. All right. Let's keep looking. They say very warm here. Right? Here, meaning black, the youngest son of Noah. Even here in the Blue Letter Bible app, they say Ham means hot. So what I'm saying to you, family, is all Ham's children were dark skinned. Now, to be honest with you, I'm going to show you. Shem's children, well, the children of Israel come from Shem, right? Let's go there. Let's just go there. Let's go to the Table of Nations. Let's go to Table of Nations now. Genesis 10. Now check this out. Table of Nations. Genesis 10, right? I'm going to just read. Verse 1. Now these are the generation of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japhet, the three sons, right? And unto them sons were born after the flood. The sons of Japhet, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. Right? The sons of Gomer, who is also one of the sons of Japhet, Ashkenaz, Riptah, and Togarmah. Now that word, Ashkenaz, Ashkenazi, right? Ashkenaz. Y'all get what I'm saying? If you don't get what I'm saying, let me go here. Let me go here. Hold on. Check it out. Misspelled it. Hold on. Let me see how you all right, I got to spell. Where you at? All right. See that? You see that? That's Kanasi J. We've been reading about this. We've been seeing them even being referred to as Ashkenazi J, right? So let's go back over here. I'm showing y'all something, man. So when we go back, I think it's right here. When we go right here, where you at? Yeah, it's down. When we go right here, what we just read, Right here. So this is Noah being naked, right? Shem and Japheth come and cover their father, right? Noah pronounce the prophecies. So we read right here where it says, in this one, remember? Verse 27. Yah shall enlarge Japheth. Remember I told you that word means, that word enlarge means entice, deceive, persuade, flatter, allure, enlarge, silly one, silly, right? So that word means to entice, to deceive. So Yah shall deceive. Let's say that. Yah shall deceive Japheth, and he shall dwell in the homeland. The tents, the homeland of Shem. And Canaan shall be his servant. So Canaan's still getting the curses here, but Canaan is not all of Ham. It's not all of the sons of Ham. Now, Shem is dark-skinned like Canaan. I'll prove it. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. This is Solomon speaking, family. Right, sorry about that. I had a phone call. So, Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. Solomon says, look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. But the key thing is, Solomon says, don't look upon me because my skin is black. Now, we know that when, let's say a white person, when they go and they get in the sun, they get a tan. It's not described as black. You know what I'm saying? They tan a little bit. But with us, if we out in the sun, we already, a lot of us is already dark. Like me, I'm a dark-skinned brother. If I'm out in the sun for long periods of time, I'm going to get even darker, where you would describe it as black. Right? All right, let's keep going. Book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 7. Check it out. Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? See, listen, the Ethiopians come from Ham. And we've seen that Ham's children were given what we would call Africa, most of it, right? Shem was given a little piece of that. Probably, I can't say little, but Shem was given a piece of that too. That's why they got the word Middle East. You notice there's a word called Middle East referring to countries, but there's not a Middle West. It's because they're trying to, they don't want you to know that that land is connected to the continent, closely connected to the continent, if not connected to the continent of Africa. But here you have the Most High saying that you are like the Ethiopians unto me. The Ethiopians are dark-skinned people. You know what I'm saying? I'm just showing you that the children of Israel were dark as well, right? The children of Ham might have been darker, but you know, they're all dark people. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I want you to think about this. When let's take Moses for example. When the Pharaoh that rose up and started persecuting the Hebrews in Egypt, and when the children of Israel were in Egypt during the times of Joseph, and when Joseph was ruler, and they were there for 430 years. So Joseph passed away. The fathers passed away. All 12 sons passed away, but their children lived on. 430. We talking 430 years, family. So 430 years there, and towards the tail end of that, or the midway to the tail end of that, they started facing oppression, persecution, and the Egyptians was worried that the children of Israel would become an army within their nation and destroy them. So this is why the Pharaoh of that time started killing the little boys. Because if you take the boys out, you kill the nation. And because he knew that there was one that was coming through a dream of one of the Magi's, if I'm not mistaken, had a vision or a dream that they basically seen Moses coming before he came. So he started killing the little boys. Moses, as a child, as an infant, was sent off into the river and found by the Pharaoh of that time's daughter. And the daughter looked upon Moses and basically fell in love with him. Like this is a beautiful child. She knew he was of the Hebrews, but she didn't want her father to know. So she took Moses as her own, right? Moses was raised up in Pharaoh's house as Pharaoh's grandson. Now, if Moses was of a white complexion and the Egyptians were of a dark complexion, and Pharaoh is killing off the Hebrew boys, if the Hebrew boys were white, right, Pharaoh would have seen Moses and knew what Moses was, right? Common sense. So the Hebrews look like the Egyptians, just like here when we read in here. He says, you are like the Ethiopians unto me, because the Ethiopians were dark. The Egyptians were dark. The children of Israel is dark. Now follow me? Another example. Let's take the Messiah, for example. Same deal. Killing off little boys, right? Herod knew that Messiah was to come. The Magi's and all the people knew. And the Pharaoh, well, not the Pharaoh, Herod was trying to kill off the little boys. So in Jerusalem, in the land of Israel, there was a slaughtering of children. And after the Messiah was born, Joseph was told to take him, Miriam, and the boy, the Messiah, to Egypt to hide. Now, how could they hide in a land with dark-skinned people if they are light-skinned or if they are white-skinned? But it would make sense that them hiding in Egypt amongst the people of the same complexion of them, that would make more sense. You see what I'm saying? But I got one more example. I'm going to show you something. All right. Lamentations. Chapter 5, verse 10. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. Again, the white person gets sick, and they get dark, you don't describe it as black. It's just, you might say tinted, a little darker, but black is an oven. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this is not a racial thing, family. It's not a racial superiority. I can't even talk. It's not saying one race is greater than the other race. It's not one of those type of things. I'm just saying, I'm just keeping it facts. It's keeping it facts, because remember, the Gentiles have to humble themselves under the children of Israel, because right now we're the lowly people. Just keep that in mind. So if it's any Gentiles listening, follow along, listen. It's not a knock on you. We just stating facts, all right? We're just simply stating facts. And one more. Let's go here. And then we'll continue on. I just want to show this. All right. Check it out. And it says his head, right? This is the Messiah. This is what John. This is what he's seen in a vision when he was doing the Revelations. He says his head and his hair were white like wool and white as snow. Now it's talking about wool. It's more about texture. We ain't gonna get into all that right now, but check this out. And his eyes were as flame of fire. That means red. He had red eyes. You know, red eyes that he's seeing is anger. You know what I'm saying? You get mad, your eyes get red. You know, I know mine do. I get mad or I get tired, my eyes get red. But check this out. Verse 15. And his feet like unto burnt brass, as if they were burnt in the furnace. And his voice is the sound of many waters. I mean, we seeing a complexion right there, family. We seeing a complexion. So let's get back. Let's get back to where we was. So we see the complexion of the children of Ham. We see the complexion of the children of Israel, which come from the lineage of Shem. We see that Japhet. Let's go there. Let's go there real fast. I forgot to go there. Let's go there real fast. Back to the table of nations, right? All right. So now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japhet. And unto them sons were born after the flood. The sons of Japhet, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan or Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, remember that Ashkenaz, we talked about that, Riptah, and Togarmah. Verse 4. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, I believe that's Spain, Kittim, that's Rome, and Dudan. These are your Gentiles, family. These are your so-called. I say so-called because there's no white and black, family. It's just national. Yah doesn't deal with complexion as far as addressing the people. He deal with the nation, right? But let's keep on. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish is Spain, Kittim is Rome, and Dudan. All right? And check what verse 5 says. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their land, and everyone after his tongue and after their families. See, Yah deals with families, nations, right? In their nations. And then it goes on to the sons of Ham. Then it will go on to the sons of Shem. But I'm going to stop right there. You got these right here from verses 2 to 5 showing you a list of people, and they're called the Gentiles. The nations. Gentiles is not a bad word. It just means nations. It just means nations. Remember, they occupied the more northern area. It wasn't until Alexander really started making a name for them that people started seeing them, and then they got into rulership. You know what I'm saying? But they were just called the nations because people, the Israelites didn't really deal with them, didn't know much about them. They knew there were people up there. They just called them the nations. They called the other people who was round about them, you know, like the Egyptians, the Philistines, and the Medes, and all of them. They called them the heathen. You know what I'm saying? So really, just Gentile just means nations. Technically, the Philistines and the Canaanites and all, we could say they Gentiles because they are nations, but this is just how they addressed it. You follow me? This is just how they addressed it. So when we look over here, man, this is mess. This is their way of just confusing people even more. This is not biblical. You know what I'm saying? How he was talking and saying and the curses, your lips would be like this, your hair would be like that. Nah, nah, nah. Hair like wool, wool is kinky. It's kinky. That's a curse you see in the Messiah's curse. But they don't believe in the Messiah. They're waiting on their Messiah to come. They're waiting on it, who the world calls the Antichrist. We call him the son of perdition, the lawless one, the anti-Messiah. That's what we call him. But that's what they're waiting on. That's their king. Not the one who was sacrificed and died for the sins of mankind. Nah, they don't honor him. All right, let's continue on. That was just crazy. That had my blood boiling, the way they were talking, like, and they twisting things. And it's crazy because they actually believe that. So let's continue on. All right, so the year 1911, Warner Sombart, in his book, The Jays and Modern Capitalism, states that from 1820 on, it was the age of the Rothschilds, and conclude that there was only one power in Europe, and that is the Rothschilds. Like I said, who's bound down to this family? Who will bow down to this family? If there's another family out there, and this is where the so-called man is saying Antichrist or whatever he's going to come from, I mean, anything's possible, but just after everything you read and knowing how history planned out, you actually see this family bound down to this man. This family has been running things, and the world has been bowing down to it. Y'all follow me? Anyway, let's keep going. He also states, J influence made the United States just what they are. Wow, they made America. They take credit for it. That is American. For what we call Americanism is nothing else. If we say so, then the J spirit distilled modern. Scroll down. Oh crap. The J spirit distilled modern capitalism is nothing more nor less than an expression of the J spirit. Wow. Capitalism was born from the money loan. Money lending contains the root idea of capitalism. Turn to the pages of the Talmud and you will find that the Jays made an art of lending money. They are taught early to look for their chief happiness in possessions of money. They fathomed all the secrets that lay hidden in money. They became lords of money and lords of the world. Lords of the world. I mean, come on, man. Everybody knows. Especially back then, they knew. But see, keep in mind, this family wants to keep all this stuff hidden. They don't even, you know how like we are. Let let somebody listening to this hit the Powerball or something, right? Man, you're gonna get nice expensive car, big houses. You know what I'm saying? Not saying everybody gonna do that, but I'm just saying, just watch how our people get down. You know, we want the world to know we got it. We getting it. We getting the bag, right? Biggest rims you could find, put it on the most expensive car, big house, swimming pool. You know, they the opposite. They're the exact opposite. They want to hide it. Because if you really knew what they had, if the world really knew and was paying attention to them, that's what they worry about. That's exactly what they worry about. They don't want nobody paying attention. Because they are making things happen from behind the scenes. They don't want you paying attention to them. They don't want you watching their pockets. They don't want to. They don't gotta go out and have the media come and show off or get on social media and show off all they have. Nah, they've been born in this. They've had it for a long time. They don't even want you to know about it. Just keep that in mind. So, like I said, if they was running things back then like this, what are they doing now? All right, let's continue on. Let's go down to the year 1913. Woodrow Wilson is about to be elected as president. So on March 4th, Woodrow Wilson is elected. Is elected the president, 28th president of the United States. Shortly after he is inaugurated, he is visited by the White House by an Ashkenazi. They go to Ashkenazi word, y'all. J. Samuel Untermeyer of law firm Guggenheim, Untermeyer and Marshall, who tries to blackmail him for a sum of $40,000 in relation to an affair Wilson had while he was professor at Princeton University with the fellow professor's wife. Interesting. President Wilson does not have the money. You got to remember, $40,000 back then is a lot of money. I mean, you know, real $40,000 just to pay off something. Now it's still a lot of money, but $40,000 back then might as well just been for $1 million or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about inflation and all that. But anyway, President Wilson does not have the money. So Untermeyer volunteers to pay the $40,000 out of his own pocket to the woman Wilson had an affair with, on the condition that Wilson promised to appoint to the first vacancy of the United States Supreme Court a nominee to be recommended to President Wilson by Untermeyer. Wilson agrees to this. So this is how they get down, family. They put people in powerful positions, right? All right. All right, check this one out. On March 31st of this year, J.P. Morgan, alleged owner of the J.P. Morgan banking empire, dies. He is thought to be the richest man in America, but his will revealed he owns only 19% of J.P. Morgan companies. Wow, he was the front man. The other 81% was owned by the Rothschilds. Now see this? Oh man, let's get going. So here's this Mr. Jacob Schiff. Jacob Schiff. This is an interesting character right here, man. Jacob Schiff sets up the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, as a branch of the B'nai B'rith of the United States. This organization is created for the purpose of identifying anyone who questions or challenges the unlawful action of the elite J's or the Rothschilds global conspiracy as anti-Semitic. So if you challenge, you get me? If you challenge anything that they do, anything, like anything, is considered anti-Semitic. You get me? Anything. I mean, I think it was Kanye said they own everything. They call that anti-Semitic. You know what I'm saying? Kyrie says, hey, check this movie out. Well, this video out. They call that anti-Semitic. The list goes on. It's a lot of actors and actresses, a lot of celebrities, a lot of powerful people who said things that were called anti-Semitic. And they might have just been stating a fact, but the fact that they're stating it is anti-Semitic. Now, if you come out and you say something derogatory, you know, you look like this and you look like that. You talk about how somebody look and how they, you know, and that's a little harsh. You know what I'm saying? But if something actually took place in the world and you speak on it, and it's actually proven fact, how can that be called anti-Semitic? Because they don't want you talking about it. This is how backwards the world is, and this is how much they have influence of the world. Right? So This man, Jacob Schiff, remember this is the same Jacob Schiff who started the NAACP, goes along and starts the ADL. All right, so it says that the Rothschilds global conspiracy entire, all right, and against the J race as a whole. So anything you say about the J race as a whole, or about the Rothschilds, or about the elitists of the J's, will be considered anti-Semitic. It goes on to say, strangely enough, that same year that they do this, J's also set up their last and current central bank in America. See that? So right after the ADL was set up, boom, Federal Reserve. Because they don't even want you talking about it. Yeah, they seen what happened. American public was like, nah, get the bank out of here. When they brought up the first Bank of the United States, the American public was like, get the bank out of here. When they brought up the second Bank of the United States, they waited so long for the third bank to come up. They didn't even call it the Bank of the United States this time. They called it, let's read, the Federal Reserve. In order to get the support for this form of public, they brazenly stated that only a central bank could curb inflations and depression. When, in fact, the very idea of a central bank is to manipulate the money supply to cause this. So they put it out there like, you need this because we can stop all the inflations, right? We can stop the financial depressions. That's their story. And they stick it to it. But the inflations and the depressions come from the centralized banks. Let's see this. Let's keep reading. Following the passing of the Federal Reserve Act on December 23rd, Congressman Charles Lindbergh states, the act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs the bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The greatest crime of the ages is perpetuated by this banking and currency bill. You know what was up? It is important to note that the Federal Reserve is a private company. It is neither federal nor does it have any reserve. So why call it Federal Reserve? It doesn't have a reserve and it's not federal, right? It's a play on words. It is conservatively estimated that profits exceed 150 billion per year, yet the Federal Reserve has never once in its history published accounts. Some recent evidence have come forward as to who really owns the Federal Reserve, and they are the following banks. Remember, they hide. Before we read that, they hide the who they hide their wealth. They hide who's running everything, right? They hide all of that. So it's not going to be, you ain't going to be able to look it up like who runs it and who's owning it and be able to link it back to them. Look what they got. So the Federal Reserve, if you do a search, okay, well, they told them that stuff right there. The Rothschild Bank of London. Okay, but they're not the only one. Look, you got the Rothschild Bank of London, who runs the Federal Reserve. You got the Warburg Bank of Hamburg, the Rothschild Bank of Berlin, the Lehman Brothers of New York, Lazard Brothers in Paris, Kuhn Leo Bank of New York, Israel Moses Safe Bank of Italy, Goldman Sachs of New York. We heard about Goldman Sachs. We heard about that all day. It's everything to do with the Bank Wall Street, right? Warburg Bank of Amsterdam, Chase Manhattan Bank of New York. So those are the list of banks that, if you did a search back then, that's who you're going to have as who's running it. All right? There's nothing federal about it, family. And they go on to state, these are all Rothschild banks. Not surprised. All right, we got to get to the First World War. In 1914, the start of World War One. In this war, the Germans, listen to this. In this war, the German Rothschilds loaned money to the Germans. The British Rothschilds loaned money to the British. And the French Rothschilds loaned money to the French. Funding both sides of the war, right? That's exactly what's taking place. Furthermore, the Rothschilds have control of all of the 3 European news agencies: Wolf in Germany, Reuters in England, and Hayes in France. So they fund every side of the war and they control the media in those places going through war. Okay, let's keep going. The Rothschild used Wolf to manipulate the German people into a fervor for war. It is around this time that the Rothschilds are rarely reported on in the media because they own the media. Of course. So you got World War One kicking off. Nobody's talking about it. They run everything. They run the media. They're funding both sides. And we remember with what was said, what was going to come about for the First World War. Remember with what's his name? Albert Pike. Y'all remember? What did Albert Pike, what was the main goal of World War One? If you don't remember, I'll help you. The Tsar of Russia. Take out that family. Yep. The main objective. Russia didn't have a central bank. I wonder if Russia even has a central bank now. I haven't even looked that up. I'm sure the information is in here. I don't know. I've never read this whole book, and it's a good read. A lot of this I'm reading for the first time with y'all, but this is good information. Like you can, and a lot of this stuff. That's why I'm putting it on YouTube. A lot of this stuff you can just sit back and go back and Google. Y'all notice I Google some of the things so you can see it. You know what I'm saying? But you can Google this stuff, or you can research this stuff. You can go to a library. You can go to Encyclopedia Britannicas and all different types of encyclopedias and different type of history books, and you can find this information. Some of this stuff is put up in museums across the world. But when I hide something from somebody that's ignorant, put it in the book. I say it like that because you know how they say it. But come on now. All right, so World War One started. So let's keep going. Remember, everything's in chronological order, so we'll come back to where we left off at. So in the year 1915, the Islamic Ottoman government of Turkey is overthrown by Masonic J socialists, who deceptively call themselves the Young Turks. Check this out, Turks. Why they call themselves the Young Turks? Because could it be that their family tree originated, or they came from the land of Turkey? Remember how I started this? The land of Turkey, family. In part 2, the land of Turkey was where Satan's seat was. All right. But anyway, let's keep reading. The upshot of this is the J-led genocide of 2 million Christians Armenians, many of whom are tortured and have their hands cut off. Wow. Indeed, according to the British consul, there were so many severed hands that if they were laid side by side, a highway could be made of them. Wow. Come on, man. That's... man. I'm talking about some ruthlessness right there, man. Straight up ruthless. Wow. So let's keep going. In the year 1916, on June 4th, Ashkenazi J. Louise Dembitz Brandeis is appointed to the Supreme Court of the United States by President Wilson. As per his agreement, blackmail payment of Samuel Untermeyer. Some 3 years earlier, Justice Brandeis is also elected leader of the Executive Committee for Zionist Affairs, a position he has held since 1914. All right, let's get back into more of this war. So, back to World War One. In the middle of World War One, Germany is winning the war as it is being financed by the Rothschild to a greater extent than France, Italy, and England, simply because the Rothschilds do not want to support the Tsar in Russia, and of course, Russia is on the same side as France, Italy, and England. Interesting. Then a significant event occurs. On December 12th, Germany, although it was winning the war and not one foreign soldier had set foot on its soil, offers armistice to Britain with no requirement of reparations. The Rothschilds are anxious to make sure this is not accepted by the British, as they have a few cards left up their sleeves in relation to what they have initiated for this war. So while the British are considering Germany's offer, Rothschild agent Louis Brandeis, remember the one who was just put in the office, right? The one that he just put in the office through the blackmail, right? Louis Brandeis sends a Zionist delegation from America to Britain to promise to bring America into the war on the side of the British, provided the British agreed to give the land of Palestine to the Rothschilds. Y'all see this? You see how they playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers? The Rothschilds wanted Palestine so they could protect the great business interests they had in the East. They also desired their own state in that area along with their own military, which they could use as an aggressor to any state that threatened those interests. All right. The British subsequently agreed to the deal for Palestine, and the Zionists in London contact their counterparts in America and inform them of this fact. Suddenly, all the major newspaper in America that up at that point had been pro-German turned on Germany, running propaganda pieces to manipulate the American public against the Germans, such as German soldiers are killing Red Cross nurses and German soldiers are cutting off babies' heads. This sounds like a lot of this stuff we see. It sounds like a lot of stuff we be seeing today. Like it just, but you see that all of a sudden because they run the media. They run the media. So Germany, they start to become an enemy, right? Let's keep going. Interestingly, Woodrow Wilson is reelected president this year, and the slogan of his campaign being "Reelected, the man who will keep your sons out of the war." So Woodrow Wilson is promising the American public to not intervene in this war. Let's see what happens. 1917. As a result of Germany's offer of peace, the Rothschilds' war machine goes into overdrive in America, spreading anti-German propaganda throughout the American media, which leads to President Wilson, under the instruction of the J's American Supreme Court Justice Louis Dembitz Brandeis, reneging on his promise to the electorate and taking America into World War I on April 6th. They lied. Politicians lie, right? They lie. They lie. As per the Rothschilds' promise to the British to take America into the war, they decide they want something in writing from British to prove that they will uphold their side of the bargain. The British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour, A.J., therefore drafts up a letter which is commonly known as the Balfour Declaration, which is reprinted following Foreign Office, November 2nd, 1970. This is what it says. Look how he's addressed. Dear Lord Rothschild. It's not right there. That's why if you have to check out the name of salvation and all that, this is why I don't use words like Lord, titles like Lord and stuff to address my creator, our creator. You know what I'm saying? These are your lords. And it has deeper roots than these right here. It goes all the way back to some other stuff. Like I said, if you have not checked out that lesson, go ahead and check it out. It's called The Name of Salvation. It's only one name that saves, family. Only one name. One name that saves. Only one name that saves. So check it out. But anyway, dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty Government, the following declarations of sympathy with Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty, the government, view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the J people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-J communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jays in other countries. Okay, let's keep going. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours sincerely, Author James Balfour. That is one crazy written letter. Anyway, that's what he needed in writing, right? The Rothschilds ordered the execution of the Jays. Oh, well, let's read that again. The Rothschilds ordered the execution by the J. Bolsheviks. They control the Tsar Nicholas II and his entire family in Russia, even though the Tsars had already abdicated on March 2nd. This is to get control of the country and an act of revenge for Tsar Alexander I blocking their own world government plan in the year 1850. Yep. So they got their revenge. They took the family out. They got their revenge. And they also said it also because he sided with Abraham Lincoln in 1864. You see that? They got their revenge. Mm-hmm. Y'all can see this is some interesting stuff, man. Like as I'm reading it, it's like wow. It's like wow. Oh man. So here, in the same year, the United States Congress, Oscar Callaway informs Congress that J.P. Morgan is a Rothschild front. You see that? J.P. Morgan is a Rothschild front and has taken control of American media industry. He states, on March 1915, the J.P. Morgan interests, the steel, the shipbuilding, and the powder interests, interests, and their subsidiary organizations got together 12 men high up in the newspaper world and employed them to select the most influential newspaper in the United States and sufficient number of them to control generally the policy of the daily press. They found it was only necessary to purchase the control of 25 of the greatest newspapers, the greatest papers. An agreement was reached. The policy of the papers was bought and to be paid for by the month. An editor was furnished for each paper to properly supervise and edit information regarding the questions of preparedness, militarism, financial policies, and other things of national and international nature considered vital to the interest of the purchaser. Y'all, you know that things about, that remind me of, you know how like, like you think about some of the movies you watch and stuff like that, and or some things you see on TV, like, you ask somebody something in the government or something gets revealed in the government and they call it a national security. Like, we can't discuss it. It's a national security, even if the government is wrong, or even if a certain party was wrong or whatever. It can't be discussed. It can't be looked over. The public can't know about it. It's a national security. It's kind of like, yeah, this is, you're right. Something's wrong with it, but we're not going to talk about it because it's a national security. That's what that sound like. It sound like that's exactly what this sounds like to me. That's exactly what this sounds like. When you all right, so you're a journalist and you're putting out a story. Your story could be actual factual, but an editor goes over and like, yeah, that's good, but we can't let this release. Why? National security, right? You're telling too much truth. Find some lie to talk about, or find something dumb. Let's talk about a little cute puppy or something. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk about what's really going on in the world. You can talk about what's really going on in the world if that's the agenda that we want the world to know. But as far as like the deep stuff you might come across, nah, don't talk about that. Crazy. All right, so this is the year 1918, I believe. Let me make sure. Yep, year 1918. I just want to show you what happened after that war, the World War One, right? Or because of World War One, I should say. All right, so in April, remember they took and killed off the Tsar, right? The Tsar of Russia, his whole family. So in April, the London Times correspondent to Russia, Robert Wilton, produces a table showing the ethnic structure of the 384 commissionaries of the new communist Russian government. All right. These commissionaries include 2 Negroes. Wow, 2 brothers got up in there, huh? 13 Russians, 15 Chinamen, 22 Armenians, and more than 300 Jays. Of those Jays, 264 had come to Russia from the United States since the downfall of the imperial government. Wow. That is just crazy, family. That's that's crazy. They run everything, man. They run everything. And what gets me is as you read stuff like this, man, it's like how did everybody fall victim to this? How did nobody recognize what's going on? I wasn't know how but to be honest with you, there is people that recognize it. There's people that go against it. You know, they go against it for a time or two, and then they die off. Their kids die off, and these people, their family is designed to wait centuries to get it done, to wait hundreds of years to get it done, to wait tens of years to get it done, to wait years and months and weeks and minutes. They will wait. They're patient. Their family is on top. They will get it done, and they'll control the media. So the people who went up and was a hero to fight against them, their story don't get told. Because they control what story you hear. Like today. We don't like a lot of this. We've been following. You've been following a lot of stuff you're hearing for the first time, unless you had this book or you have privy knowledge to this. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff you're hearing for the first time. Your mouth might be open wide, like sitting like, wow, I need to check that. I need to check that. You might be, because it's a lot. It's mind blowing. It is mind blowing. Continuing on in the year 1918, the president of University of Wisconsin, Charles R. Van Hise, delivers an address entitled "The Foundation of a New World Order." That's him right there, Charles Richard Van Hise. Well, he states, "The world has become one body, and no great member of it can proceed independently of the other members. They must act together, and this is possible only through formal treaty covenants." I like, I find that interesting how they use the word covenants. I mean, they're using it right, but what I'm saying is we got a covenant with the Most High. And through the Most High and following and being a part of his covenant, we will be part of the kingdom. But to be part of Satan's world, you got to be part of Satan's covenant. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? That's that do what thou wilt is. That should be the whole of the law. Anyway, that's for another topic, another discussion. So the World War I happened, and now you got to have a peace treaty for the war to be done. So on January 18th, the Versailles Peace Conference commenced and decide reparations that the Germans are required to pay to the victors following the end of World War I. A delegation of 117 J's headed up by Ashkenazi J. Bernard Baruch, who would go on to state to a select committee of the United States Congress, I probably have more power than perhaps any other men did in the war. Doubtless that this is true. Bring up the subject of the promise of Palestine for them. Remember, they still ain't get Palestine yet. It's been promised. So it has to happen. But let's keep going. Bring up the subject of the promise of Palestine for them. At this point, the Germans realized why America had turned on them, under whose influence? The Rothschilds. So America turned on Germany. Of course, we've seen that because remember, the media started putting our propaganda out there saying that the Germans were bad. They cutting heads off the Red Cross agents and stuff like that. And none of this stuff was taking place, but the media is being controlled. America was the puppet, and the Rothschilds was the puppeteer. The Germans naturally felt they had been betrayed by their J population. This is because at the time, the Rothschilds made their deal with Britain for Palestine in the exchange for bringing America into the war. Germany was the most friendly country in the world towards the J's. And that's so true because we've seen some people even go there for refuge, right? So they're saying back then, Germany was the most friendly country to the Jays. How many people knew that? Even giving them refuge when they had to flee from Russia after the first attempt of communist co-op failed in 1905, and that's what I was just talking about. So, man, this stuff is crazy, man. Nevertheless, Palestine is confirmed as a J homeland. All right, but they're not in there yet, but it's confirmed, right? But let's keep on. And while its handover to the Rothschilds take place, it is to remain under control of Britain as the Rothschilds control Britain. So Britain is in control of Palestine, but the Rothschilds are in control of Britain. Ain't that something? So Britain is in control of the J's, but the Rothschilds is in control of Britain. But it's still not a homeland yet. It's just they're talking about it. They confirm it, right, in a way. But we're going to see what World War II brings about. That'll probably be in the next lesson, I think. Because I want to keep them, like I said, I want to keep them all under 2 hours or at 2 hours. All right, so at this time, all right, so let me figure. The Rothschilds control Britain. At the time, less than 1% of the population of Palestine is Jays. So at the time, less than 1% of the population is Jays. We had the Arabs over there, family. The Jays were not there yet. All right, we just had a small portion of them there. They were the minority over there. Let's keep going. Interestingly, the host of the Versailles Peace Conference, it is Jay's boss, Baron Edmund D. Rothschild. Indeed, in his book, The Inside Story of Peace Conference, Emile Joseph Dillon states the following of the Versailles Peace Conference. It may seem amazing to some readers, but it is not the less a fact that the considerable number of delegates believed that the real influence behind the Anglo-Saxon people were Jays. The formula into which This policy was thrown by the members of the conference whose countries is affected and whose regarded it as fatal to the peace of the Eastern Europe ends thus. Henceforth, the world will be governed by the Anglo-Saxon people who in turn are swayed by their J elements. So who's really running it, right? Furthermore, the Rothschilds used the conference to obtain Germans' own railway rights in Palestine and give them control over the nation's infrastructure. So the Rothschilds have control over Germans' infrastructure. Keep that in mind. On May 30th, a spin-off meeting from the so-called Peace Conference is held, also chaired by Baron Edmund D. Rothschild, at the Motel Majestic in Paris, where it is decided that an organization be set up to advise what governments do. Control. The body is called the Institute of International Affairs, which is subsequently metamorphosized into two arms: the British Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIIA, in 1920, and its American counterpart, the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. Y'all heard, I'm sure a lot of y'all probably heard about the Council on Foreign Relations. This is the American counterpart to that. Both of these bodies are controlled by the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds control the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, which if you really like being on like C-SPAN or any of these like news agencies that really cover stuff like that here in America, you'll hear about the Council on Foreign Relations. You will. But it's controlled by the Rothschilds. Finally, the Rothschilds also used the Versailles Peace Conference to set up their second overt attempt at world government, which they promote under pretext of ending all wars, which of course they create. See, they create all wars. They call this the League of Nations. Probably heard about them too as well. Fortunately, this would not be accepted by enough countries and would therefore fade away. But before it did, the future president of the World Zionist Congress, Nahum Sokolow, would state the following of it: the League of Nations is a J idea. We created it after a fight of 25 years. On March 29th, the Times of London reports the following of Bolsheviks in Russia. One of the curious features of the Bolshevist movement and the high percentage of non-Russian elements among its leaders, of the 20 or 30 commissioners or leaders who provide the central machinery of the Bolshevist movement, not less than 75% were Jays. They already know. They running everything. Russia is in their grips right now. They good with Russia. They good with Russia. They had to take the Tsar out, and they did just that. They did just that. I wonder if I want to read this. Yeah, why not? Why not? All right, so it is reported that the Rothschilds are angry with the Russians because they were not prepared to allow them to form a central bank. Remember, that's what it's all about. It's always been about that. You know what? I'm going to stop real fast. The root of all evil is for the love of money. I'm seeing the trend here, family. Wherever their banks are, they end up getting control over. Y'all see that? That's why they was so adamant about making sure the centralized bank was in America, because it's like America's going to be a driving force. America, you see what America is today, so they needed to have the Federal Reserve there. But Russia was another one, just like America, that didn't have one. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, man, I just see a trend, man. I just see a trend Wherever that centralized bank is, they show that they got control over it, and that brings them one step closer to the one world government. And we know once you get a one world government or one world anything, well, you got what the world calls the Antichrist on the scene. He's going to come. All this has to be set up for him. Right? All right. So you see what beat they're drumming to here. All right. So it says, because they did not prepare a loud system. They therefore gathered groups of J spies and sent them into Russia to drum up a revolution for the benefit of the common man, which was actually a takeover of Russia by a Rothschild-controlled J elite. Indeed, one of these leading J spies, Leon Trotsky, even used to play chess with Baron Rothschild while he was in Vienna. All right. These J spies were in old age deceptive Ashkenazi crypto J tradition, given Russian names. For example, Trotsky was the leading member of the first group of the original name, and his original name was Bronstein. These groups were sent to areas throughout Russia to incite riots and rebellion. That's how they get down. The J's Post International Edition, week ending in January 24th of 1991, confirms Vladimir Lenin was J-ish. He was a crypto J and was born Vladimir Ilyich Yelenov. Oh, these names here, boy. Lenin is on record to having stated the embellishment of the central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. Yeah. I think I want to skip all this. Yeah, this is more stuff that's going on in Russia. You got an idea of how they get down. You definitely got an idea of how they get down, but I think I'm going to skip some of this. Like I said, family, get the book, or read the PDF. Check it out for yourself if you want to get all the information. But it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But I want to get through this. And I'm not even halfway through this book. That's what's crazy. But we're going to skip all the way down to the year 1921. 1921. Now check this out. Remember Jacob Schiff? Here we go with Jacob Schiff again. Remember, he's the one who started the NAACP. So it says, under the orders of Jacob Schiff, the Council of Foreign Relations is founded by Ashkenazi J. Bernard Baruch, a Colonial Edward Mendel House. And so Jacob Schiff is so powerful. Not only he started the NAACP, but even greater, he started the CFR, the Councils on Foreign Relations. Let's see what's going on here. Schiff gave his orders prior to his death in 1920, as he knew an organization in America needed to be set up to select politicians to carry on the Rothschilds' conspiracy. Indeed, the formation of the CFR was actually agreed in the meeting of May 30th, 1919 at the Hotel Majestic in Paris, France. All right. The CFR membership at the start is approximately 1,000 people in the United States. This membership includes the heads of virtually every industrial empire in America, all the American-based international bankers, and all the heads of all their tax-free foundations. In essence, all those people who would provide the capital required for anyone who wished to run for Congress, the Senate, or for presidency. And if you notice, like a lot of people who runs for Congress or presidency, they are members of the CFR. Council on Foreign Relations. Yep. The first job of the CFR is to gain control of the press. This task is given to John D. Rockefeller, who sets up a number of national news magazines such as Life and Time. Wow. So John D. Rockefeller is the reason why we got magazines like Life and Time. He finances the J. Samuel Newhouse to buy up and establish a chain of newspapers across the country, and another J. Eugene Meyer, who will go on to buy up many publications such as the Washington Post, the Newsweeks, and the Weekly Magazine. We all read these. We all seen these. We see these in the stores. We see them on bookshelves. These are magazines we see. Let's keep going. The idea of controlling the press is not simply a censor news that the Rothschilds don't want you to hear. It is primarily to be used as an educational tool to condition the public by emphasizing what news is important and what news isn't. See that? They basically telling you how to think. You see that? Teaching you how to think. A perfect example of this is a newspaper which runs lead stories about the shenanigans of whatever flavor of the month celebrities they choose. Yet, buried within the inside pages, some brief account of an ongoing war that will overtly or covertly have an effect on each and every one of us. Another example of this is putting more and more emphasis on sports as opposed to news. A lot of our people are more focused on what the celebrities doing. Oh, Kim Kardashian did this. Jay-Z did this. You know what I'm saying? Like, or, Boston won the game, or, LA won, or, Dallas won, the Eagles won. I got to throw Eagles in there because I'm a fan, but it just never mind. But what I'm saying is, we get focused on things that don't matter, and then when it's things that do matter, we'll see it and we'll read past it. We won't look into it. We won't read into it. We won't consider it. That is apparently hundreds of years of conditioning, family. Hundreds of years of conditioning. They were working on this craft for a while. So we when it comes to what they've been doing already, we stillborns to this. We just come in and we just think the world is the world and we just go with it. You know what I'm saying? The world is the world, we just go with it. But their family tree from the beginning has been manipulating the whole time. I just want y'all to really think about that. Really think about that. Like, seriously, man. Ain't nothing wrong with watching sports and knowing what the celebrities doing and stuff like that, even though that stuff is minute. But it's nothing wrong with, I'm going to say it like this. There's nothing wrong with, if you're entertained by certain things. Now, I'm not talking about things that lead you to sin. I'm just saying just things. It's just just let time pass by. These are things you might like watching a movie. You might like watching a game, or you might want to be up to date with the celebrities are doing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I'm saying is, if you're under the brainwashing that they have set up, where you might come across a story where you think that I don't need to watch this or listen to this or read this, even though the story could affect your lives or another group of human beings' lives. If you see that as not important, but you're focused on things that is of no importance, you have fell into their trap. You get what I'm saying? You have fell into their trap. And it's not just you. It's not just me. It's not just the person next to you or the person across the street from you. It's everybody. It's everybody. Like stuff like this. Now, many people probably see this video speaking on these type of things and will go brush right past it. I don't want to hear that. Man, go ahead, someone heard that. that conspiracy theory stuff and that. Man, I don't want to hear that. But they'll sit there entertain themselves with somebody fighting in the streets, beating the crap out of somebody else, or some girl shaking her behind. They'll go and like to that. They'll subscribe to that. But something like this, they're like, I don't want to hear all that. That be downer. That brings me down. You know what I mean? I don't want to be down. I want to be lifted up. Fall right into their trap. I'm just saying. Fall right into their trap. But let's keep going. I think I'm about to close this out too. Let me see. Yeah, we had an hour 49. So let's say we're going to wrap this story up right here. And we're going to close this out. So, did I read this? Okay. All right. So the CFR also needed to get control of the radio, television, and motion picture industry. This task is split amongst the international bankers from Kun Leo, Goldman Sachs, and Warburgs, and the Lehmans. Interestingly, the J Encyclopedia Judicia would have the following to say on this subject. What did they say? All the large Hollywood companies, with the exception of the United Artists, were founded and controlled by Jays. I'm not surprised. Not the least bit. Not the least bit. Finally, the CFR needed control what was being taught in schools. Oh, here we go. And the task was given to Carnegie's. So control what we learn. This is why we don't know of all these type of things. We know about, I say, like, for example, the Civil War. We know, yeah, the Civil War happened, but we got what we were taught. What happened? What was the cause? The French Revolution. Yeah, we know it happened. Yeah. First thing you think of, yeah. What's his name? I cannot think of his name right now. Why? Napoleon. Yeah. First thing you think of, yeah, Napoleon is a bad guy. It's a bad dude. Because the spin that was given to you. You had no knowledge what was in Napoleon's mindset. Napoleon, I ain't saying he's a good person, but what I'm saying is Napoleon wanted to rid himself of these banks. The same banks that Andrew Jackson, Abraham Lincoln, these people wanted to rid themselves of the bank. Are they bad people? Like I said, I'm not here to decide who's good or bad. Because if you ask me, good is those who serve Yah through Yahushua. Those who are of the Father. That's good to me. But what I'm saying is, in the mindset of people, you know what I'm saying? We would get a filtered version of them. The filter is created by these people. We won't get to know who they are and why they were doing it and why this happened. And this is why it takes some studying. This is exactly why it takes some studying. So, where did I leave off? Because I think I'm great. I'm great. Stop it real fast. Yeah, I'm gonna stop it here. Because we are at a minute, an hour and 52 seconds, an hour and 52 minutes. Sorry, I've been working on this all morning, reading this all morning, all day. So excuse me, but basically to sum everything up, family, they count on our ignorance because they spent a great deal of time conditioning us to be ignorant. Now, I'm not saying this because if you, it's like, the Behold a Pale Horse. That's a good book to read. Maybe after all this is done and all that, maybe I'll find an electronic version of that and read that. But even in books like this and Behold a Pale Horse and all these other books where you can get this type of information from, it's the author always seems to go to the point where they say, we're telling you so we can fight against this. I'm not reading this book for you to fight against it, family. I'm reading this book for you to come out of the world, to come to the Father. Because I know something. According to the Bible, all this has to take place. Now, the Bible don't get in specific details on some of the stuff that we read here, like the World War One. It doesn't talk about, oh, World War One has to take place, but it does speak of wars. It does speak of the time of the Gentiles. It does speak of sin reaching an all-time high. It does speak of Babylon's sins reaching up to the heavens. It does speak of the time of the Gentiles and the courtyard measured out to them. It does speak of the man of sin coming on the scene and sin being at an all-time high. It speaks of all these things. So what I'm saying to you is it has to happen. So I'm not giving you the information for you to say, oh, let's start a revolution, let's go fight against this. No. I'm simply saying this is a warning cry. These are the shofars blowing. This is the time to come out of the world. How do you come out of the world? I'm talking about spiritually. Don't be lovers of this world, because this world has been given to you by Satan himself. I'm not talking about you being born. No, I'm talking about scripture says you were born into sin, right? Meaning the world is sinful. You're born into the sinful world, but you have to come out of the world. This is the walk that the Messiah had. This is the cry that the prophets had, right? This is what was required from us from day one. Yah wants us to choose him over Satan. But Satan then gave himself many names. Satan then gave himself many religions. Satan then gave himself many situations where you can run into. The road to Yah is a narrow road, but the road to Satan is broad. It's many roads to Satan. This is just a warning cry, family. That's all it is. So that's a good opportunity to end it. I hope this was a blessing to you. I'm gonna try to finish this out before we get into the man of sin, but you best believe when this is done, I'm jumping right into the man of sin. God willing. Do a lesson on the man of sin and do old school with it too. And this is all put out for foundation for that lesson, so that lesson can make more sense. So family, please like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And stay tuned. And just remember the message. Just the goal is for you not to go out and fight a revolution, to not go out and try to stop this, to not go out and have picket signs and do a march and nah. Because you can't stop it. You're going to go out there and get yourself killed. You can go out there and get yourself put in a situation. I'm just telling you just to wake up. Understand what's happening and that it needs to happen. But you are responsible for your own salvation. You have to come to the Father through the Messiah. You have to. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to leave you in shalom as I came to you in shalom. Shalom, shalom.